Today, I'd like to share with you a different paradigm, one that you may or may not have heard of, but that certain companies around the world are practicing very well, and they've turned out to be some of the most successful companies in the world. You'd almost say it's one of the best kept public secrets around. So this paradigm is not just a theory, it's based on 31 years of research as well, and quite a lot has been documented. In fact, I'm surprised that it hasn't become mainstream yet. Okay, and this journey, we at IQ Business in Cape Town have actually also begun this journey, and it is very much a journey to a new business paradigm. And with your permission, I'd like to share with you some of the things that we've gone through in that journey, some insights and some of the results we're seeing from that. I think we should go from our vision to executing our strategy, because sometimes it just stays in a vision, via the value profit chain. Not the balanced scorecard. The balanced scorecard is another silo. People here, learning and growth here, optimizing. So it's actually precipitating the ops and HR siloed quandary. So I'm saying, if you really believe in this, and you've got a vision for your company, start at the very top, anchor it in everything that you do, instead of the balanced scorecard or whatever mechanism you use to structure your strategy and your plans and your targets. Start with this, so that it doesn't get watered down all the way, and make sure that it's consistent in all of the things that you do. So, there's many aspects. We don't have time to go through all of the transition, but I just want to share a couple of things to bear in mind. The first thing, if you've dialed into, yes, we think that we should add value for all the stakeholders, then, well, the starting point is, if I want to add value, I need to understand what value is, right? Kind of obvious question. It's kind of an obvious first place to start. Understand value first. And here the warning is, if you don't know, ask. Don't assume that you know. Quite often we'll say, well, we want to add value for employees. Let's do this and this and this. I guarantee you, spend 2 hours with every single employee, and you'll see what a difference of needs they have, how employee value is truly defined differently for different people. So starting point, ask. Take the time to ask. Like you say about taking the time. It might be 2 hours. It'll be the best 2 hours you'll spend to sustain the future of really aligning and getting the best out of that person getting the best out of their lives as well. Same thing with your customers. Don't just read the whatever news is out there, etc. Dare to ask. I promise it will change your customer relationships. Customers have got 2 alternatives. They've got a person trying to push them product, or someone to say, I'm not here to sell. I want to understand what's really value to you. You'll be one of the few. And go there 3 or 4 times and don't try to sell a thing. You'll see how you move from a supplier to a business partner, to a sounding board, to things that they don't even get to think about and ask themselves, because they're busy with their financial paradigm themselves. So it's a journey that you actually also take together, and that's why it can be done in an iterative way. Start with the asking. The next thing is, do it dynamically. What we found is, when we started off this journey, there's a high intensity, we asked, but we live in highly dynamic environments where people change, their views change, you have new people coming into the organization, but your customers' environments are highly dynamic. Competition, technology, etc. So new legislature. So I would say, don't let your journey of this be railroaded by a one-off exercise. Actually define a mechanism or a way of doing business so that you can continuously ask and gather. The entrepreneurial plan, which is employee value, we've got 2 drivers there. One is entrepreneurial plan. The other one is a great place to do great work. We've started off with this one. And this one is an interesting one here. What we do is, and remember I spoke about entrepreneurs. I just want to go back one slide here, is how we came up with this is, the reason to understand customers is obvious. When we looked at financial value in our particular business, when somebody's on the bench, so to speak, they're not earning money, and so it destroys financial value. Some bright spark said, let's get them off the bench, let's have a bench action plan. Somebody else said, well, why don't we make sure they don't even come on the bench in the first place? So why are they on the bench? An employee mindset would be, I'm on the bench because sales didn't sell me, and I'll keep collecting my salary until I go somewhere else. An entrepreneur would say, well, maybe I'm on the bench because I have a skill for which there's no client demand. It doesn't have value for the customer. That's why I'm on the bench. Maybe I've got a performance issue. Maybe I don't have enough skills to be broadly deployable for multiple customers. So there's a lot of other reasons of why you could be on the bench. And that's where we came up with this idea of the entrepreneurial plan. And if you remember earlier, I was saying find a way of adding value in all the areas at the same time. The entrepreneurial plan does that. So to give you an idea here, what it does is it takes the passion and the skills, and it looks at the client, what's value to the client, and what is the demand coming out of that, and actually brings them together and looks at the overlap. So what's the overlap between these factors? Your passion, your skills, and the client need on an ongoing basis, because as we said, it's changing. And in those overlap areas, the question is, so where can I work on my passion and help the customer and bring financial value for the company that I work for? In the overlap areas, we ask them, what's the gap between where you are now and where you'd like to be, and so where you can add more value to you and more value to the customers. One thing I've got to make clear on this entrepreneurial plan, we do this much for people, we truly add value for them. In fact, because of the way we do it, because it's matched to the customer, we make them more employable in the marketplace. Huge danger. But we're gambling on the fact that if you're adding value to people, and if they're in an organization that adds value to them and is dedicated on an ongoing basis, why would they leave? And it's a chance we don't mind taking. Because like I was saying earlier about attracting and retaining staff, the one thing that was missing for me is attract, grow, retain. As long as we're growing people, people will come to us, and they've started. They started to come to us for less money because of this philosophy. And from there, quickly, out of the gap analysis is a roadmap. The roadmap has 4 key areas. What training they need. We pay for any training, because we know they've done this gap analysis, so we'll pay for it, because it's cheaper than if they're on the bench. What project exposure? Quite often people have dreams, but they keep it to themselves. If we know where they actually want to work, we can put them on those projects. What IP, what new stuff do they want to create? That's the third element. And the fourth element is we help them market themselves. We help them with their LinkedIn profiles. We help them how to go about writing blogs and all of these things. We want them to add value to themselves. Become you Inc. We always say we don't want people to join IQ Cape Town and become a branch on a tree. We want everyone to plant their trees side by side so that we grow a forest.